all over Raleigh, all over Wake County.
No, my brother-in-law is country music singer. He's on YouTube on Cricket Music.
Oh, really?
He's got hits from all over the world.
Nice.
You do too.
Well, all over Wake County, far and wide. Let's see. Does it work? It works. Does the pedal work?
It's not plugged in.
Yeah. So, good evening. Oh, thanks. Thank you all for coming out tonight. I'm Robert. I've been here once or twice before in the past, so it feels like home, like family. I like this setup. It's casual, and that's good. It should be. I'm going to start with some improvising, some noodling. We did a little bit of this last time, I think, so I need your help. We're going to create a melody together and then a style. But last time we did Debussy, so maybe something else. It could be anything. It could be very weird if you want. But we're going to make this piece together. So maybe like 3 or 4 notes. If you give me a note. Anybody?
B minor.
B minor. Okay, we'll do the key of B minor. Okay. And single notes. Anybody?
F sharp.
F sharp. What else?
D.
D. A.
A. Oh.
Okay. Well, that's good. Maybe one more.
There's a clinker.
Yeah, there's a clinker. That's good though. One more note. We have F sharp, D, A, D. We have D, so C. Okay. I hope I remember that. Okay, and then style. What do we want? Any requests?
Ragtime.
Ragtime. Okay. People like ragtime. Okay, at the end I'll do a little ragtime. Okay. So B minor. Those are the notes, and then somehow make. I don't know. Okay, let's see what happens. Yeah. That was odd. That was fun. Now I'm going to play a very long piece, which I've just learned. But I want to share it with you because it's still fresh for me, which is a good thing, but maybe not in every sense. But yeah. And it's kind of a confusing explanation of what it is. So just bear with me. I'm going to play the first movement of Beethoven's Violin Concerto, because I'm doing this violin thing. I just keep doing it. I can't stop because I find more violin arrangements. So how on earth am I playing? It's for violin and orchestra, okay? Beethoven wrote the piece in 1806, and the first performance was not received well. Possibly because it's very long. Even the first movement is like 25 minutes, you know. And it's very meditative. It's not like storm and stress Beethoven that we're used to. It's the pastoral Beethoven, like the pastoral symphony. So his buddy Muzio Clementi, a great composer as well and pianist, urged Beethoven, who was kind of distraught that the performance didn't go well with the violin. He said, "Why don't you arrange it for piano and orchestra?" And Beethoven did. And I don't know, I guess it was performed and no one really plays it. I mean, there's the great Daniel Barenboim played it on piano. There's a recording on YouTube, but it's just not done so much on the piano. But it's, you know, if Beethoven wrote 5 piano concertos, many call this the 6th, because it's really a piano concerto by Beethoven. It's just the violin concerto, but reimagined on the piano. Okay. More confusing stuff is that this is kind of my own arrangement, because I'm including as much as I can the orchestra as well, because it's for violin or piano and orchestra. So I'm trying to play, you know, to graft 2 parts at once, driving me nuts. But yeah, so what else would I say, technical details about this? I lost my train of thought, I don't know. But yeah, that's what I'm going to do first. The first movement of Beethoven's violin concerto is arranged for piano, and it's my own arrangement. I know what it was. Okay, cadenzas. In a concerto, you have cadenzas. Cadenzas are actually spaces for what I just attempted to do, improvisation, free improvisation. Yes, classical music had improv back in the day. And Beethoven actually would often write his own cadenzas for things, all right? He did not write a cadenza for the violin concerto. Most violinists play Fritz Kreisler's glorious cadenza. Nathan Milstein, who's one of my favorite violinists, he wrote his own cadenza, but Beethoven didn't write one. But he wrote a cadenza for the piano version of the violin concerto. I'm sorry it's so confusing. I'm confused myself. But and I'm going to play it. And this is a bonkers cadenza for piano and timpani. Why? And so what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to imitate the timpani by doing. I'm not going to do this. No, don't worry. I'm going to. I'm going to play the timpani down here. And there's some violinists who they say, look, we don't have an authentic solo violin cadenza by Beethoven. So someone, I think a guy named Christian Tetzlaff, a German violinist, he arranged the piano cadenza into a violin cadenza. So everything is like people are borrowing and stealing from it. It gets confusing, but I love it because I have the chance to keep living out my dream to pretend to be a violinist by playing this. And it's Beethoven's own arrangement. So there's people, I know people who are anti-arrangements. They say, why would you want to play a not diluted, but diluted version? Just do the original. Well, Beethoven himself did it. So, okay, fine. Now, let me tell you a little bit, some thoughts on Beethoven. Obviously, Beethoven is so well known. He lived from 1770 to 1827. Many people say that he was so iconoclastic that he sort of broke the classical era's style and ushered in Romanticism. I don't think that he was conscious of that or anybody was at the time. But yeah, definitely there's before Beethoven and then there's after Beethoven. A couple thoughts. I had this wonderful professor who said this, something to the effect of, Beethoven is like Tolstoy in music. What on earth did he mean? He said that both Beethoven and Tolstoy obviously created beautiful art, but they went beyond it. They went beyond aesthetics into ethics, meaning that when you read Tolstoy, it goes really deep into our humanity, and it touches on that part of compassion and all that. You know, Tolstoy himself said in What is Art, He's describing in one part the backstage of an opera theater. And he's basically saying, this is ridiculous. Why do we have all this fuss when there's people in the world who are truly suffering? And that's a great question. Tolstoy was very keen on human and even animal suffering, very much. But then he concludes by saying, if one person leaves that opera performance with a little more tenderness, a little more compassion in their heart, then it's succeeded. And I love that. And I think Beethoven does that. He just does. And I can't explain why, but it just does. And more on Beethoven, that I love what Leonard Bernstein said about him. He said, if you isolate Beethoven's melodies or themes, they're sort of banal, because, or even this violin, I mean, that's just like, or the violin concerto, that's just part of a scale. It's not, I mean, it's not like it's not an extraordinary melody, but it's what Beethoven does with it that makes it incredible. And so he takes not very sophisticated nuts and bolts and turns it into magic. That's Beethoven. And he struggled with it. He would write, they found on his manuscripts the candle wax drippings, his tears even. Because and he had this messy handwriting. He would cross things out and rewrite and rewrite. Mozart had it all up here. He would just write, it would just come out. But, you know, it's a different consciousness, different mindset. This is 1806, 1807. French Revolution is over. The American Revolution is over. It's just the first movement is 25 minutes. That's the length of a full concerto or symphony in the time of Haydn or Mozart. It's got this length to it. I was going to say one more thing. But anyway, so that's it. I guess I'll play it now. Yeah. All right. I said it's new for me, so let's see what happens. Well, thank you. Well, I was, thank you for the warm reception, because several things about this scared me. One was, I mentioned the first performance was such a disaster that the violinist had to play a popular fiddle tune with the violin turned upside down to get people's attention back, because this is probably the longest first movement ever, or one of. And also, I just learned it. And I played this somewhere recently, and there were two people that came up to me afterwards, and one of them said, "Did you add some of your own arrangement or improvisation?" This other lady said, or was a guy, I forgot. "No, those were mistakes that he made." And I said, as a matter of fact, yes, I make mistakes. Sorry. But there's a good quote from Beethoven that I should have shared, and I didn't, but I remembered it after the fact. And the quote is, "To play a wrong note is okay, but to play a note without passion is inexcusable." So that's the good, but I always think of these things too late. On a more serious note, and I'm going to talk a little, because that is Beethoven takes a lot out of you. So the thing I kept wanting to say about this and forgetting is maybe the most important thing. He wrote this piece when he was fully aware that he was going deaf. And he struggled with that and didn't want to accept it. There was this period right around that time when he was really wrestling with the idea of being deaf. I mean, can you imagine a musician knowing that it's incredible? And by the time he wrote this concerto, he had made peace with that. And that's why this concerto, I would say, it's very placid. But not always. I mean, it's like a pastoral landscape with a volcano going underneath it. But much of the time, it's so peaceful and serene. But I think that serenity is a hard-fought, hard-won serenity. That's what makes Beethoven, that's what makes him so great. It's not just happy-go-lucky. It's happy-go-lucky having faced the hardest facts that anyone could face. So anyway, I just love Beethoven. So what am I going to do now? Something else. Yeah, that was the meat and potatoes of today, really. I mean, I'm just going to go home. No, I'm kidding. So I'm going to play a little more. I'm going to play some musique française, French music, because it's a little contrast. I'm going to play a piece by Maurice Ravel.
Oh, yes.
This is also new for me, and I have a story behind it. This is called, my pronunciation is going to be atrocious, but it's called Pièce en forme de habanera. Piece in the form of a habanera. Habanera is a Cuban dance. Well, no, it's serious. It's the rhythm of a habanera is. Do you know a famous habanera from somewhere? You know it.
Carmen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Da da dee da da da. You see why I don't sing? Okay, so anyway. Bizet's Carmen. So what's fascinating is my teacher for 8 years, Solomon Mikovsky, who died recently, he was Cuban. And he made us, I'm grateful to, play lots of Cuban music. I think I may have done one here in his memory. And Cuban music is this melting pot. It's a mixture of music from Spain, music from West Africa, and it's all just mixed and it's wonderful. And the habanera was from Havana, of course, went over to Europe sometime in the time of Bizet and the early 20th century Ravel, and became very popular, became very chic, to use a French word. So anyway, but Ravel is interesting because Ravel, mostly we group him with Debussy. We say he was an impressionist, but Ravel's different. His chords are different. Debussy will do stuff like more watery sounding, But Ravel likes these piquant chords, like it's a little Stravinsky-ish too. With these dissonances, and he likes the Spanish flavor in pieces, probably because his native language was Spanish, his mother language. He was Gascon, which is the region. Gascony is between France and Spain in the Pyrenees, I think. So he grew up speaking Spanish, and the French thing came later. So I love it how identity can be, this is getting into it, but what is it? Because César Franck I played last time, César Franck, très français, but he was Belgian. Alfred Cortot, the French pianist, he was Swiss. So everybody's something, and it's not. Anyway, it's interesting. So now, this is a piece that's obviously done on the violin. It's done on the flute. And it's originally a vocalise. A vocalise is a piece for voice with only vowels, like, oh. If you're in the car and you hum like that, which I'm sure we all do, that's a vocalise. You can say, if someone catches you, you say, monsieur, c'est une vocalise. I'm doing it. It just sounds better than humming. Anyway, so the arrangement for piano that I'm going to do is by a French composer and pianist named Daniel Héricourt. Okay, funny story about Daniel Héricourt. I learned this recently. I played it over in Greensboro. And I failed to look up Daniel Héricourt because I didn't have time. I was too lazy. I don't know. So I announced it. I said, look, I'm really sorry, but next time I come here, I'll tell you more about Daniel Héricourt. Okay, well, this lady comes up to me after the concert, and she says, you're not going to believe this, but Daniel Héricourt and his wife were my neighbors for about 20 years right here in Greensboro. I said, is this the same? I said, the music here says 1921 or something. She said, oh yeah, he was up there. He was old. I said, so was he knew Ravel, knew Debussy? Yeah, of course, he talked about it. And they walked their dogs, we'd go over to his house for tea. He was a great guy, taught at UNC Greensboro. So I looked him up when I went home, and sure enough, I think he was born in like 1900 or something. And then in the 30s, when the fascism was rising in Europe, he got out, he came to America. And he settled in Greensboro, North Carolina. Taught at UNCG for many years and was well loved. And then he retired and he stayed there because he liked Greensboro more than anywhere else. Yeah. So local guy, sort of. And also a proof that one must always look up things that they're going to talk about. Because you never know who. Yeah, so it's just, that story anyway, it's really funny. So here is the piece, Ravel / Héricourt, piece in the form of a habanera. That's right. Yeah. that piece. And it's so different. I like contrast, because the Beethoven is like, and then that couldn't be more different. This is strange. Maybe I'm talking too much this evening, but I did play that really long piece so I could fill in the. But anyway, I had this dream about Ravel's music when I was in college. And I don't know why, I was playing this piece called The Sentimental and Noble Waltzes, which are a long piece by Ravel, beautiful. And I was struggling to get the mood. And then I had this dream. So I told you I grew up in New Jersey. And New Jersey is very famous for its malls. And my dream was I was driving late at night by a big mall in New Jersey. And there was no one inside, but all the lights were on. And there were all these crystal chandeliers, and it was very peaceful and very glittery. And then I thought, yeah, and I heard Ravel's music in my head. I thought that. And while I definitely don't think Maurice Ravel had malls in New Jersey in mind when he wrote his music, I think it somehow makes sense in a way, because it's very pristine, his sound. It's different from Debussy's, very different. So, okay, let me more French music. I'm going to play, I did this last time, but I was only here, a few weeks ago, so. This is the famous Meditation from Thais by Massenet, another French composer, but this is a little earlier than Ravel. This is 1891. And Thais it's an opera. It's about a young woman named Thais. It's in the end of the ancient Roman Empire. Takes place in Alexandria, Egypt, and she worships Aphrodite, Venus. She worships the goddess Venus. And there's this young, very early Christian monk, an early sect of Christianity in Egypt, and he takes it upon himself to convert her, but quickly realizes that he's in love with her, because it's an opera. If that didn't happen, you wouldn't have an opera, I think. So, But this meditation, it's not sung. It's played by violin and orchestra, and it's an interlude that occurs at different points in the opera. And there's actually this kind of a debate. Some people say it represents romantic love, but some people say no, the Thais is actually, it's an opera about religion and love. And it's a religious piece. It's almost like a gospel or something I'm going to play later. Maybe not exactly, but because it's French opera from 1891. But music's music. It's all the same, really. So anyway, violinists play this as a standalone piece. And I'm going to play it as a standalone piano piece because I'm too lazy to learn how to play the violin. So. Thank you. A couple more, maybe a couple more classical. Then we'll do the gospel set. This is Guitar by Moritz Moskowski. I've done this here before. I can't learn a whole Beethoven thing every week, so every month. But so this is Moskowski. He was Polish, lived mostly in Berlin, and he wrote beautiful music. He wrote these etudes, by the way, which Horowitz played. They're beautiful, beautiful. And he's less popular today than in the early 20th century, because he wrote what many would call salon music. It's very light and airy, which is not necessarily a sign of superficiality, I believe. So anyway, this is Guitar. It has a Spanish flavor to it, and the violinist Sarasate, Pablo de Sarasate, arranged this for violin. That's why I'm doing it. But this is the original piano piece, because I don't fiddle, so yeah, I don't play the fiddle. So. All right, one more violin piece, then I'll do a little gospel. So this is, I've done a lot of Paganini here, and I'm going to do more Paganini. This is, maybe last time I did this, this is the sixth and final of Liszt's Paganini studies. I think it's, in some shape or form, I've done all six of them over the years here. So I don't like to do a complete set of things all at once. My wonderful teacher, Vladimir Viardot, would jokingly refer to this as being, like, if someone would come to him and learn, like, the 32 Beethoven sonatas, he would say, aha, you're a Costco pianist, because the bulk, you know. But I mean, and then he'd go to Costco. To trust me, he liked Costco. I love it. You know, I'm not making fun of Costco, okay? But anyway, the point is that I'm being Costco in that I've been giving you all these. So this one is the famous 24th Caprice. It's an arrangement of it. You know. Liszt does with it, obviously changes it. And yeah, real quick, you've heard this story a million times, so I'll tell it short. That Paganini lived at sort of the same time as Beethoven, late 1700s, early 1800s. And like Beethoven, he was, the force of his personality, it did not fit with the Enlightenment classical era, manners. It just didn't really jive with it was different. And Paganini, there are people who thought he was crazy. Some people thought he was possessed. The way he played the violin, so he was this wild man. But the Romantics, they loved him because they saw in him what they wanted for themselves, and especially Franz Liszt. And so Franz Liszt did these studies after hearing Paganini perform. Liszt was depressed. He heard Paganini, and voila, he was, knocked out of that depression and just started practicing like crazy, and the rest is history. He's Franz Liszt. We remember him for that version of Liszt. And this is a piece from that period. Now, Liszt revised it several times himself, and I'm doing a further revision by early 20th century pianist Ferruccio Busoni. I love to say it because it's Ferruccio Busoni. Did I tell you the joke about the watermelon in Italy? Okay, well, it's actually a Russian joke about Odessa, but it works well for Italy. Okay, so there's a guy in Rome and he's lost. And I don't know, my mom always says, she's Russian, she's like, I don't know if the Russian jokes translate, but I think this one does. And he's lost and he sees a guy walking with a watermelon. And he says, excuse me, sir, how do I get to the Colosseum? And the gentleman says, hold the watermelon for a second. How should I know? With his hands, so. That's a good one. Yeah. So, but whenever I say the name Ferruccio Busoni or Niccolo Paganini, I just think of that joke. So, all right. But here is the piece. It's a serious piece, so I don't mean to take away from the gravity of this. All right. humid day, so yeah. If I'm going to do a little more, if you need to leave, it's okay. I understand people have things to do. Okay, I'm going to play a little Southern gospel. I'm going to play a great. This is a spiritual, I think, old one that Mahalia Jackson used to sing. Again, not Michael Jackson, Mahalia Jackson. As I told you once, I'm going to write a book about people, things people tell me. I played something in the style of Mahalia Jackson. I named Mahalia Jackson, and someone in the back was laughing hysterically. I was really upset because I love Mahalia Jackson. She's my, greatest musician ever, maybe. And I got in the car, I realized they thought I said Michael Jackson. So I'll do a little improv. He's got the whole world in his hand. Yeah, you know it. Maybe one more. Okay, this one is called. It's another Southern gospel tune, and it's not a bombastic one. It's kind of more reflective, and sometimes you want to end like that, This is called "I Have Heard of a Land." wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank y'all.
Thanks for coming.
Come again.
I will next month. Yeah. I'm like the full moon, you know, like every month. Yeah. And I love being here. Yeah.